Today is the second part of a two-part sermon series. Last week I preached a sermon that was titled Invite to Invest, and today I'm preaching a sermon series titled Invest to Invite. Not very original, but hopefully powerful. And there is a powerful idea that is tied between these two sermons, and it's this. You have no clue what God might do through one invitation. You really don't know what the next invitation that either you extend or that you receive might do in your life. I told the story last week about a single invitation from a woman named Noelle that was extended to me that led to my first date with my wife, Hannah. And that first date with Hannah, somehow, by the grace of God, led to this little one, Sophia, that many of you have seen here, who is about 1.5 years old, and she is still stealing my reading material out of my bathroom. So you had no idea what one invitation might lead to, which is why all summer long, I am going to be encouraging you to do lunch with one another. Because you have no idea what God might do through the single invitation to somebody else in this congregation. How God might strengthen us and build us together. We're going to get stronger together as a congregation this summer, one lunch at a time. And so will you invite somebody? Because your invitation, it's really about investing yourself in the church. It's about investing yourself in the things of this church. And when you invest yourself, there's often a return. And I tell you, if you will invest yourself by inviting people within this church, out to lunch or out to coffee, it could be on Sunday, which is kind of the angle that we're working at, but hey, if you do it on a Wednesday, that's okay. That counts too. In fact, we want to know if you've invited somebody out to lunch. Tell us. You can send me an email, you can write me a little note, you can tell me verbally, because we're going to count that, we're going to celebrate that, because it really has a lot of power when we're doing it together. But I believe, and I hope that you will come to believe, that by investing yourself in the church, by being intentional about being in relationship with other people here in the church, both friends you've known for a long time and perhaps new friends, that this will help grow our church stronger. But we also want to grow our church larger, because if we have a larger church, we can do more. We can offer better programs both for the adults that are here, have more small groups, more ways for you to get involved, both to serve and be served, to pour out your gifts and to be poured into. We can have stronger programs for those in our community that need assistance. We can have stronger programs for our children. And I know we only have a few right now, but that's going to change, I promise you, if we just believe. And so investing yourself in the church is the key, because it makes it easier to invite others to the church. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about inviting other people to church. And if you're anything like me, for you, the word invite leads to this feeling, which is fright. Because inviting people to church is kind of an awkward thing. In fact, inviting people to anything is a little bit awkward. In fact, you might get rejected. Last Sunday, I had 2 invitations rejected before somebody said yes to lunch with me. It happens. And so there's a fright that comes with the invitation to invite. But it's key for us to invite other people. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a biblical example. We're going to look to Jesus, because we're all trying to be disciples of Jesus and follow the ways in which he did things. And what I'm going to show you is the key for you to relieve that tension around inviting, to relieve that fright. And here it is. It's found in the book of Matthew 4, verses 18 through 20. Now you got to pay attention real closely, because there's a few steps here. And once you learn these steps, all your fear about inviting is going to go away. In fact, you're going to be so anxious for church to end, so you can get out there and begin inviting people. Just here we go. All right, ready? So as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, so picture this, you're just kind of walking along, or maybe you're driving along, okay, because we don't do a lot of walking these days, but you're driving along. And he saw 2 brothers, Simon, called Peter. We're going to learn that his name's Peter later, and his brother Andrew. So he's walking along, or you're driving along, you see 2 people. And they were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. So he's walking along, you're driving along, you see 2 people who are at work. Okay? They're at work, because they were fishermen, they're casting a net. And check this out. He says, come follow me. So you're driving along, you see 2 guys working on the side of the road, on the street, and you just pull up your car, roll down your window, and you say, come follow me. You with me on this, right? You excited yet? Okay? Right? Don't worry, I know that feels like a little thin, okay? But there's more to it. There's more to it. It says, come follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. That's the key. You're going to drive along on your way home from church today, the next two random people you find, you're just going to roll down the window, and you're going to stick out your head and say, hey, come follow me. I will send you out to fish for people. And either you might get arrested, or they might follow you. So I got a question. Are you ready to go and fight? I mean, we can skip the closing hymn and I'll leave now. Who's with me? I wouldn't even be with you. But that's the story in the Gospel of Matthew of the invitation to Peter. But thankfully, it is not the only story about Jesus inviting Peter. And if you look at the four Gospels, you see several different stories, and if you piece them together, you start to see a strategy that is actually workable. So here we go. First, we're going to look at John 1, 40 through 42. And to set this up, you got to know a little bit of the background. There's this guy named John, not John the writer of this, but John the Baptist. Maybe you've heard of John the Baptist. John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin, and John the Baptist was a preacher, and he was a mighty preacher, so mighty that thousands of people were coming from the cities around, and they were coming to hear him preach. And he was baptizing, which is why it's called John the Baptist. He was baptizing in the River Jordan. In fact, he baptizes Jesus. And he says that Jesus is the one. Now, John had disciples of his own, but when he said Jesus is the one we've all been waiting for, they began to get curious. And in fact, two of the disciples, one named Andrew and another one that is unnamed, they begin to follow Jesus around. And Jesus sees them following around, and he says, why are you following me? And they say, because we want to know where you're staying, which is really, really creepy. But Jesus, being Jesus, he says, all right, come and see. And so we pick it up here. It says, so they, Andrew and the guy that's unnamed, they went and saw where he, being Jesus, was staying, and they spent the day with him. It was about 4 in the afternoon when it was all done. So they spent a substantial amount of time with Jesus. The first thing that Andrew did after he had spent a bunch of time with Jesus was go find his brother Simon, who we'll later find out is nicknamed Peter, and told him, we have found the Messiah. That is the Christ, the anointed one, the Savior, the one we've been waiting for. We found him. And he, Andrew, brought him, being Simon, who will be called Peter, to Jesus. So, this is the beginning. And Andrew's bringing his brother along, saying, hey, you got to come check this guy out. And Jesus, John says, looked at him and gave him a nickname. Now, I don't know about you, but if I give somebody a nickname, or if I receive a nickname from somebody, I got to have pretty good connection with them. I got to have a rapport with them. I don't just go throwing nicknames around. Some people do that, but that's kind of strange, right? But if you get a nickname from somebody, or you give a nickname, it's because you got a connection. So they spent some time together. And Jesus liked Peter enough, was connected with Peter enough, was invested in Peter enough, that he gave him a nickname. And his nickname said, you'll be called the Rock, which, if you look at the scripture, it says, I'm going to call you Cephas, which is translated in English as Peter, but Cephas, Peter, it means the Rock. Y'all follow me? Okay? The Rock. It looks at him and says, call you the Rock. Because apparently, this guy that we all know as Peter looked like this. So it goes, we'll move on. All right, so back to Matthew. This is the scripture that you saw. They were out casting a net. They were at work, for they were fishermen. And Jesus walks up and says, hey, yo, Rocky, hey, Adrian, or Andrew, yo, Andrew, come follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. Now, this is slightly different now, right? Because he's already spent time with both of them. He's connected and invested with them enough that he's exchanged nicknames. And so now when he comes up to them, it's not two random people that he sees. It's people he already knows. And he says, hey, come follow me. And the second part, I will send you out to fish for people. We need to read into that a little bit. You know what he's saying? He's saying right now you've got an occupation. But I see more. I see a new chapter in your life. I see a vocation. Right now you're working to make ends meet, but I believe that you have the potential to work to make the kingdom manifest here on earth. Now we go to Mark, and the first chapter of Mark, there's a story, and it's Simon Peter, Rocky, his mother-in-law was in bed with a fever. And they immediately told Jesus about her, because not only had Andrew and Rocky spent a bunch of time with Jesus, but he's also out healing people by this point, so they know this about him. So when Peter's mother-in-law gets sick, he immediately goes and finds Jesus. So Jesus comes, and he took her hand, and he helped her up. And the fever left her, and she began to wait on him. So now we got two different times where Jesus spent significant amount of time with Peter and Andrew. And then you add to it, he comes over and he helps heal Peter's mother-in-law. One final episode. It's in Luke 5. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. And he noticed two empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Now that's key, because these two fishermen are going to be Andrew and Peter. But if you remember, the first time around they're casting their nets, so they're at work. Now they're washing their nets, which means that his work is done. They're kind of putting together the supplies for the end of the day. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, who we know as Peter, its owner, who he has a relationship with, right? It's not just some random guy that Jesus is getting in his boat. He knows these guys, and he steps into the boat, and he pushes it out into the water. And so Jesus, sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. And Peter is sitting right next to him, listening as Jesus is teaching the crowds. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out where it's deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish. So he's preached for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour. We don't really know how long Jesus preached, but he preached for a significant amount of time. And he says, okay, why don't we go back out into the water and let your nets down? Master, Simon, who we know as Peter, replied, we worked hard all last night. Now, if you are a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee, you fish at night because it's cooler at night. And the fish come up to the surface of the water at night. And so when you throw your nets out at night, your chances of catching fish are much greater than in the daytime when it's hot and the fish go to the bottom of the sea. So he says, hey, look, Jesus, we worked hard all last night, when you actually go fishing, and we didn't catch a thing. We've done this before. This is our profession. We know what we're doing. We fish at the right time. And we didn't catch a thing. Now let me connect the dots to your life for a moment. There's some people in your life right now, or some people that God is going to bring into your life who have done the church thing. They've been to church. They grew up in the church. They tried multiple churches, and they didn't catch a thing. It did not work out. And if you go and invest in them, and then at the right time decide to invite them to church, there's likely to be some resistance, and for good reason. Because it didn't work out the last time they did it. And they might have done it at a better time in their life, or maybe their hearts were more open, or they were actually searching for God. Here you come into their life, and they're not even looking for God, and you're getting to know them, and then you invite them to church, and they're thinking, been there, done that. Or maybe you have invited people before. You were that person. You were really, enthusiastic about it. And it didn't work out. And so for me to stand up here and begin to encourage our congregation to have an invitation orientation, to lean towards inviting one another out to lunch, to lean towards investing in people outside the church and inviting them to church, and hey, I've done this before. I did it at a time when the conditions were more appropriate to actually catch something. And so you would respond just like Peter responds. But if you say so, which is not really a statement of enthusiasm, but if you say so, I'll let down the nets again. I'll try it again. I'm not really sure about it. I don't really believe in it, but I'll try it again. Just kind of real life, how it works sometimes. You with me on that? You feel that? So here's what happens. This time, their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. So Peter does go back out. He lets the nets down. And this time, things are different. This time, the nets are so full of fish they begin to tear. And a shout for help brought their partners in the other boat. And soon, both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. Now, this is Pastor Matt Lightman. He actually has visited our church with our leadership team. And roughly 5.5 years ago, he became the pastor of a declining/dying church called Sunrise United Methodist Church. It's up in the Geist area. And when he became pastor of the church, the only kid in the church was his infant son, Theodore, who was held in the back by his wife. Only kid. And just recently, Matt told me that they had moved to 2 worship services. And it's not because they don't have enough room for the now 170 adults that worship there every Sunday, but because they have 50 children, 5th grade and under. Their kids program is bursting at the seams. And they cannot put forth an appropriate and an effective children's environment with their single service, so they split into 2. How'd that happen? Because this group of people, this is an older picture, they're bigger than this, but this group of people, they decided to invest in the church and invite others to the church. You see, everything has a tipping point. And at a certain point, we'll grow stronger and stronger together, and there will be people in your lives who you've been investing in, either intentionally or it's just kind of happened that way, and they will be looking for a church, and you'll know it, and you'll invite them. And then they'll invite somebody, and then they'll invite somebody. This is how it works. But we invest, and then we invite. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm too much of a sinner to be around." Peter's heart has changed. He's come into contact with something. It's changed him. He sees things differently. And he's almost overwhelmed by what God is doing. You see, you don't really know what God might do through a single invitation. And when you see God's work at hand, it is overwhelming. It is humbling. It changes your heart. Don't be afraid, Jesus said, for now on, you'll be fishing for people. You're going to leave your occupation and come take on this vocation. You're going to go from building income to building the kingdom. This is the invitation. And as soon as he received it and they landed, they left everything and they followed Jesus. You see, Jesus' strategy, it is multiple investments of time and multiple invitations. He invites Peter, Rocky, and his brother Andrew at least twice to come and follow. At least twice to come be fishers of people. And with those 2 invitations, he has at least 3 or 4 investments of himself. And he helps them out. I mean, it's real tangible help. He helps heal the mother-in-law. And you might have missed it, but he also helps them at their job. Right? They didn't catch anything, and now they got more fish than they can handle. So he gives tangible help. Multiple investments, multiple invitations. Because when you invest multiple times in the life of somebody else, and when you invite them multiple times, it says, I care about you. It's not just about getting you to my church. In fact, it's really not about getting you to the church. It's about inviting you to a relationship with Jesus Christ, which will change your life in ways you can't imagine. Make it better than you would ever imagine. People don't care what you know or how much you know until they know how much you care. That's why the investment of ourselves, actively, intentionally, in relationships with other people, whether you got somebody right now or whether there is, somebody waiting in the wings that you just have to have your heart open to. It will grow your heart. And it will create a context where an invitation is the most appropriate thing to do. So, there's 3 cues when to invite. Okay? Just to kind of make this a little bit easier, I'm just going to touch on these briefly. And you'll see these again, because these are, I think, helpful. But there's 3 cues if you have been investing in a relationship of kind of knowing when you might invite. And you can invite at other times, but these right here, if you try not to overthink it, these might be helpful. The first one is you hear from somebody, it's not going well. You're talking to them, and they're talking about their life, whether they are sick, or their job's not going well, their family's not going well, but things are not going well. That could be a cue for you just to say, things aren't going well. You ought to just come to our church. It'll encourage you. There's people there that will love you. It's not going well. I invite you to the church. Or not prepared for. There's a change that happened. We had this kid, and we wanted the kid, but now the kid's here, and we weren't really prepared for this kid. It's a difficult thing. Or I changed jobs, and maybe I even got the promotion, but I'm not quite ready for all the responsibility that it brings. Or I lost this job. Or, I knew retirement was coming. I was looking forward to retirement, but now I'm in retirement. I'm not quite prepared for what retirement looks like. I don't know exactly who I'm to be at this stage of my life. I'm not prepared for it. That could be a cue if you hear it from somebody to say, hey, come join the church. Just come check it out. Finally, simply if they're not in a church, things are going well for them. There's not exactly a pivotal life circumstance at hand, but they're just not in a church. And you're invested in the church, is adding value to your life, and you just say, hey, do you have a church? You don't have a church? I invite you to mine. The 3 nots. Not going well, not prepared for, not in church. And don't think about what the next Sunday is going to be, because we can overthink this. And believe me, I'm the one inviting people to come hear me preach, so I want to make sure I'm preaching something good and not just kind of a filler sermon, Just invite them. You never know what God might do through a single invitation. To make you feel a little bit better, there's some research done on this. And Lifeway research says that 63% of Americans say a personal invite from a friend or a family member would be effective in getting them to come visit a church. You got better than 50-50 odds. And if you are sincerely trying to love like Jesus loved, invest in yourself and those whom God has put in your path. I didn't choose them, I wouldn't have chosen them, but God has put them here, and I'm going to invest in them. I'm going to try to love them. I'm going to invite them when the time is right. So to sum it up, invitation works best when you've taken the time to invest. You've been sincere, genuine about investing in yourself and other people, because other people have invested in you. And you're just trying to live out in whatever way possible what it means in your context to love like Jesus loved. So you invest in it. And when you feel the time is right, you get a little bit risky and you invite them. I invite you to join me in a closing prayer. God, I pray for each person here that the message that was shared today, that whatever it was your message, that it might spark something in the hearts of everyone here. That they might first receive your invitation to them to come and follow. For Lord, you see in them much, much more than they see in themselves. You see all their potential. You see how beautiful each person here is. And you've called them to a beautiful and wonderful work. And Lord, you've put people in their lives whom you have selected for them to invest in, to invite into a relationship, not just with the church, although we want them here with us, but a relationship with your Son, Jesus, a relationship that will transform them, that will heal them, and free them. We pray all this in the name of your Son,